Hello and welcome to episode 119 of the Rollo and Slappy Show. Today is November 19th, 2018. I am Rollo McFlugel, and with me is Slappy Jones 2, and we are both from McFlugel.com. The show notes page is McFlugel.com/119, where you'll be able to find links to ways to subscribe to the podcast and our newsletter at McFlugel.com, as well as things we're talking about, and also to check out LibertyMugs.com, where we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the episode. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Slappy, and he's going to introduce our episode topic and our guest.
Thanks, Rollo. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's the Rollo and Slappy Show. I'm Slappy Jones. With us today, we have Car Campit, one of our not so frequent anymore guests. He did go on a run of, 4 out of 5 episodes, and then took a couple months off. But he's back with us today to talk about real IDs, since we're seeing that. At least if you're from Pennsylvania, you see ads for that on TV about how you have to get a new ID that's compliant with some federal, is it a mandate, I guess? Is that the term for it, a federal mandate for IDs? So anyway, welcome to the show, Car.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem.
Man. Anytime. So, Rollo, what do you think of these IDs? Did you get your new real ID yet?
No. In Pennsylvania, you don't have to get it yet.
Actually, you don't have to get it ever.
Yeah.
According to the website.
Right. Well, that's just kind of the weird, stupid way they go about this kind of stuff. But
what do you mean by that?
So on the Pennsylvania DMV website, it says these are not mandatory. They're optional. You don't have to get them. However, you can't fly domestically. You can't go into any federal buildings or do whatever if you don't have one. So I guess that's how they get around it being a federal law or something.
Right.
Yeah. And of course,
well,
they're not going to issue non-real IDs going forward. So when your license expires, you have to get a new one.
So let's take a step back and kind of give a idea of what this the Real ID Act is all about for those who are not really that familiar with it. Because I really wasn't familiar with it until I started seeing commercials and billboards and finally read something about it, a little bit about it. But this actually, the law for this, the Real ID Act of 2005, which means it was from 13 years ago they did it.
Post 9/11.
Yep.
National security type move.
Yeah, so the bounties of George Bush are still with us today. A couple presidents later, a lot of presidents' terms later.
So wait, well, go ahead, continue. I won't.
So what it is, I'm just right on the Wikipedia page for it. So this is what Wikipedia says right at the top. The law sets forth requirements for state driver's licenses and ID cards to be accepted by the federal government for official purposes, as defined by the Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security. The Secretary of Homeland Security has defined official purposes as boarding commercially operated airline flights and entering federal buildings and nuclear power plants, although the law gives the Secretary the unlimited authority to require a federal identification for any other purpose. The Real ID Act implements the following. Title II of the Act establishes new federal standards for state-issued driver's licenses and non-driver identification cards, changing visa limits for temporary workers, nurses, and Australian citizens. Funding some
Australian citizens?
Yeah.
Wait, is real some kind of corny acronym?
Oh, sure.
It's not capital letters.
It's not?
No. So I don't know. Funding some reports and pilot projects related to border security. Introducing rules covering delivery bonds, similar to bail, but for aliens who have committed released pending hearing.
Aliens?
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Updating and tightening the laws on application for asylum and deportation of aliens for terrorism, and waiving laws that interfere with construction of physical barriers at the borders. Huh. That's an interesting one. So, the one question that this would get brought up is, well, is this a federal ID? And the government's saying no because it's kind of an opt-in for the states to do. But the kind of
is there like some kind of federal funding attached to it? Like if you don't, don't do the real ID, then they stop funding whatever welfare program you have.
I don't know what pushback there is on the states that way. That's a good question.
Because they usually do something like that.
But
that was how like the drinking age was up to 21 from 18.
Yeah, but they make it a pain in the butt. Even if they don't do that, they make it a pain in the butt for the citizens of each state if the state government doesn't enact this stuff. Because you can imagine, people trying to get on a commercial flight and they can't because they don't have this stupid new ID. Now,
but you could use a passport,
right? And other federal IDs, but it just adds to paperwork that you got to bring, proof of whatever that the government's now requiring you to do. And that's, like we said before, it's not they say, well, it's not mandatory. You don't need to do it, but they make it more difficult for you to fly on an airplane. Or they just say, well, I mean, if you don't want this ID, I mean, you don't have to drive a car, I guess. So it's these weird, kind of, the government just takes over normal aspects of your life, regulates it, calls it a privilege, and then acts like your rights aren't being violated.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this is the same when to go back to your question of, is this a federal ID? You might ask the same question of, is NPR or CNN or Fox a federal news station? Well, I mean, technically, no. It's issued by a quote unquote private company, just as these IDs are issued by a state rather than the federal government. But if they're adhering to all the guidelines of the federal government, then yeah, I mean, in some sense it is, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
I don't know if you read this or not, but because I was Googling, Senate passed the bill 100-0.
Yeah, I did see that. And I think it passed the House pretty
there
high,
was
too.
Not one senator said like this, we don't want to do this.
Yep.
Who's in the, who all is, I'm not the most politically knowledgeable guy, but who do we have to point fingers at? Is Thomas Massey, is he a representative or a senator?
He's a rep, I believe, but he wasn't in office in 2005, was he?
Oh, right. 2005. Right. Yeah.
So it's like post 9/11.
Right. Just coming out of 9/11.
Yeah.
I think I read, I don't know if I read, let me look, I can find it fast enough. See how it passed the House.
368 to 58.
Yeah, so I assume Ron Paul was one of those 58.
One of the 58.
Yeah, you would have to believe.
Still overwhelming support.
Yeah. So one of the big problems about this too is that it creates it serializes you. So you get a federal ID number when you get this real ID, which also just creates that creepy kind of federal overlordness or top
Big brother.
Yeah. So, but the way they do it, they're saying that it's administered by the states, so it's not really a federal ID. It's just we're setting ID standards for you to follow, and this is what you don't get if you don't do it.
Right. Fox News or CNN News is not a federal program, but they adhere to all the guidelines that we set, and they have to come back to us for a license.
Right. And so the other thing, and you brought this up, Slappy, before we went on air, is that you have to have this if you want to go into a federal building. So, what happens if you get called in for court or something, or you need to go to this place now? Like you can't go in because you don't have this card, or I think just who was one of the politicians said it. That he's like, well, what if you want to visit your congressman? Now you can't go in and visit your congressman? He's like, isn't that a kind of a First Amendment issue?
Right.
So on top of this, too, it's very clearly that this is for immigration control. They kind of mask it with saying that, it's for terrorism. It's for terrorism. But for all the people that say that they want the state, all the libertarians especially, because I don't have any hope that, your run-of-the-mill conservative or even liberal is going to have anything good to say about immigrations and the border. But for libertarians who claim to be good on the state and government and all the bad things that it does, for those that saying that they want the state to administer at the borders and have some sort of control over who goes in and out, and even, they say, oh, we have the best of intentions for it. But this is how it happens. It doesn't happen when, like, Stefan Molyneux doesn't get to write these laws for you. I wouldn't even trust him to do that, but you have what's already there in place to write these laws, and you're getting a George Bush era, post 9/11, Patriot Act type, we're doing this for your security type deal. So now you've got this federal list of citizens that if you get pulled over somewhere, they can take your ID and take your number, run it through, and now they can check the federal database for stuff on you.
Yeah.
And two,
go ahead. Sorry.
And the other thing too is that if you don't have it, like you say, you opt out and now you don't have it, now you're kind of on suspicion of being an illegal immigrant. Because that's half the reason why they're doing this is for immigration control. So
it's all show us your papers, right?
Exactly. But people, I don't know if people think that the show us your papers is they don't realize that's a metaphor.
Right.
I think they think that that's like a literal thing that they'll be like, show me your papers. No, it's going to be show me your ID, show me your chip that we can send to the computer, because it's not 1938 anymore in Nazi Germany where, they only had paperwork. Now we've got the internet and computer networks and all this other stuff that show me your papers is going to be a whole lot easier to do. And, you're not going to have to actually carry around papers. It's all electronic, but it's even more stuff is available for them now.
Yeah. Yeah. This goes to the thing that we've been banging the drum about the entire time is that, yes, that like on some level, I recognize the concern of people who of the closed borders crowd who are saying, a shitload of people are coming into this country and receiving benefits, or whatever. I don't even know I don't know the numbers on any of that. I don't give a shit, but I understand where they're coming from kind of like a tribalist, patriotic side or whatever. But the guys that are distrustful of government, I don't understand why they're allowing themselves to give the government this, because as always, it's going to be exploited. And it doesn't matter what it is, but you give an inch and they're going to take a mile. And so it's important to remember, and maybe we chalk this one up to another life lesson, like going forward to the Hoppians or what have you. But look, your fear will be exploited. Your fear of the other will always be exploited by those ready to exploit. So don't give them that.
Right. And like it says that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security has the authority to require this for anything.
Yeah.
So like it's just like the government doesn't relinquish power ever.
No. And I think it's important to remember that for 200, to this day, really, in most states, if somebody asks you for your papers, you can say, fuck you. And that, like, literally, you can still do that in most states. If somebody says, hey, what's in that backpack or whatever, providing you're on a public street or something like that, fuck you. That's your answer.
Correct.
And that is going to go by the wayside. Now, that's not to say that you may not have ramifications for it. They may act, quote unquote, out of line. But technically you are in the right. Like you have absolutely in most states, you don't even have to give an ID. You don't have to tell them what your name is. You can just walk away. And that's the next thing that's going to go by the wayside, and they're going to condition people to be obedient and give over papers and show ID and all this at a moment's notice. And they, I mean, you don't even have to look back that far in any country I mean, shit, you don't have to look back at all. Like that's how Russia is these days now. Like you go there and you get pulled over on a traffic stop, show us your papers, and you bribe them out. Like that's the way that it works. It's frustrating because a lot of those guys on the quote unquote right side of it are seem to be pretty proud of this country that we founded, but completely forget why we founded it, and that's to say fuck you to cops.
Yeah. Well, that's like the conservative groups are, believe it or not, all aboard on this one.
Yep.
Are they really?
Yeah, it was like the Heritage.
No, because it's terrorism.
It's like
right?
the Heritage
Right,
Foundation was like, full-throated support or whatever. Which is, I mean, it's hilarious because like they should be the ones, these conservative groups that they want efficient or whatever they say they want small government. Does the Heritage Group even say they want small government?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're just... Ugh. But you would... a national ID... I guess it's just you slap terrorism on something and you get...
Do whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, these people... we love to make... The NPC meme is great and it gets applied to liberals all the time, but man, here's a perfect example of conservatives being absolutely programmable. Like, it's just you say the word terrorism and they say, where's the closest boot we can lick?
Yep. If you have a fear, somebody will be very willing to exploit that fear.
Yeah. And I mean, especially this fear of Australian immigrants or something.
It's outlandish.
Yeah, actually, this might kind of switch gears a little bit, so I'd apologize if I do that. But I was just in this weekend visiting schools because my kids are getting a little older, looking at schools, and that's what struck me about school is they really do want to train your kids to be terrified of everybody and everything. All they talk about is safety and how these doors are locked and kids can't do this and kids can't do that. And we have this many people watching them when they're in the playground. And it's like, it's insane. I was like, just let them play. Like, this is not a selling point to me. I don't want my kids to be afraid of everything and every person.
Oh, yeah. And you got to believe, I have to imagine they're constantly telling them that, like, someone's probably going to come in here and shoot the school up, too.
Right. And so you train these kids when they're young to be scared and they grow up scared. And where do you go for help when you're scared? Is the state.
Yeah.
It's a nice little system they got going.
Yeah, it's a racket. Goddamn racket.
So anyway, sorry for that little anecdote, side story.
No, it's true. It's every day. Every time I see something about schools, it makes me, if I have kids one day, to homeschool them and never send them anywhere close to a thing like that. I even saw something on Twitter today. It was a picture of a kid who did his assignment, this little worksheet in school, and it was, I guess, for a Thanksgiving thing. And it said, the top of it said, like, I'm going to eat blank. And then it said, like, don't eat turkey. And then it had, like, all these reasons, like, write why your food is better than eating turkey and blah, blah, blah. Well, the kid wrote steak. And gave reasons why you should eat steak, it was great. Like, the kid just completely owned this assignment. But it's like now they're in whatever school this is, this teacher's sending them, having homework assignments being like, you should be a vegetarian. And I mean, there's arguments to be had about, your diet and everything, but why is your teacher giving that to a kid that can, like, just starting to write? The kids can't be making those decisions. Just let the parent decide what like. And I know this is just what's it called? When, like, just maybe one isolated incident, but you see it happening a lot. And I remember even in growing up when I was in school, I remember there was a little bit of that kind of overtone.
Well,
Not quite that, but just like these weird overtones that they're like introducing these certain themes.
Well, that is the point of schooling. It's to
Right.
take you away from your parents, and the state raises you.
Well, now I know.
So whether state or a private school that's using the state curriculum, using the Prussian model, it's all the same. It's not about the lessons. It's about, when I say it's not about the lessons, it's not about the content that they're teaching. It's the real lesson you learn in school is that when the bell rings, you stop doing what you're doing and move to the next class, because nothing is important enough to finish. You're in the middle of writing a poem. When that bell rings, you stop writing a poem and you go to science class and you do that. And it keeps you forever distracted, and it keeps you isolated in this world, detached from reality, to where the important things in your life are sneakers. Instead of thinking of real questions and learning and doing and making things, you're stuck in this child world till you're in your mid-20s sometimes. And you never have to confront any realities while you're in this little childhood world. It's really a sad place.
Yep. I know we're taking this completely off topic, but this reminded me of something I haven't thought about forever. But remember the PSATs?
Of course.
Yep.
It was I don't even know what the P stand. I don't even know what the SAT.
Practice, right?
Yeah. Is that what it all
Probably.
means? Prep or practice?
Preliminary practice, something.
But I took the one, and I was a sophomore, junior in high school. And in the language section, or the verbal section, every time that the problem had some sort of negative connotation about whoever the subject was, it was about a male. And every time it was positive, it was a female. And like, I didn't do that. I especially that day, I wasn't going in there being like, well, let me think about it. I just kind of noticed it. And then as I was taking the test, I was paying attention to these, and literally every single question was like that.
This was back during your MG Tau days, right?
Yeah. So I was really concerned about this.
It took me a second for that.
Yeah.
I've never said it out loud, so I didn't know how to say it.
Is that what you're supposed to? Is that how you're supposed to?
I have no idea. That was the first attempt. So
nice. But I remember I told people about it. So I was like, this is crazy. And everyone laughed at me. They're like, no. I'm like, well, you go back and look at the test and tell me whether I'm wrong or not. And no one wanted to, everyone just said, no, you're crazy. Okay.
I don't know if I would have called you crazy, Rolo, but I can guarantee you I wouldn't have looked back at that test at age 16.
Well, no,
I can tell you that.
I knew no one would.
Even if I agreed with you, I probably would have.
No, I know that. I was saying it was more like you can review it if you want to. Like, it's not like it's that you have to only take my word on it.
I'm just laughing about 15-year-old Rolo deep into the MG Tau movement before he's developed any real responsibility for himself. Already frustrated with women.
Isn't that what that whole movement is, though?
Yeah, you're right. You would have fit right in. That's good.
That would have been perfect. I wish I had that's actually good that I didn't have the internet back then like we have it now, that much access, because if I did have the ability to go online and find a niche of people to complain about that and talk about that, man, who knows what rabbit holes I would have been down when I was, 16 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
Which makes it kind of scary today, because now these kids do have this stuff, and they can, any stupid idea that you get when you're a kid, you can go on the internet and find plenty more people with that stupid idea.
Yeah, like us. We're waiting here,
Yeah.
scooping them up.
Yeah. Come on over, high school kids.
So what were we originally talking about? This was an episode about men.
Oh, Real ID.
Yeah.
Real ID. Yeah.
Well, we should ask the MGTOWs how they feel
Is
about
that-
real.
MGTOWs, that actually does sound better than the way I said it.
Would you say MG Tal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was MCTOW, I'd have really been in a pickle, because that would have been MGTOW or MC Tau. But MG, I just decided to say those and then, proceed with the Tau.
Yeah, are you ever supposed to break up acronyms? And like
I don't know.
the
I don't know
letter-
what the protocol is on that.
I think you can.
Yeah, it seems right. At least to give the marketing people a break, you know. I mean, give them more flexibility with what they're doing.
Yeah, and the MGTOWs do need a lot of marketing help.
They need flexibility. God damn, do they need some? They need a lot. Is that thing still going? That was like hot and heavy there for like a year.
It's still there a little bit. Every once in a while, I'll see it pop up on Twitter, and that's one of those other things. It's I don't think we really have to worry about these sort of people.
No, I mean, if you didn't glean from my voice, there wasn't a whole lot of worry. Yeah, no, that's a. I mean, there is something like, well, you know, I guess everything comes from, or a lot of things come from some small grain of truth. Like I understand the guys that like go through a divorce where everything's taken from them, and like obviously, I don't think it's controversial to say that a lot of the
That's the whole system is set up against men.
the system is set up against men. Like I haven't been through it personally, but
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, there's no doubt about that. But I liken it to it's horseshoe. It's like everything, like so many other things. It's horseshoe theory happened with these things because the MTALs are the same thing as radical feminists now. They turned into the things that they claim they hate. And it's just like the people that, like, I don't know, are they the red pill guy? People are the red pill, or the men's right activists or something.
yeah, it's men going their own way.
Right, but even before you get to the MGTOWs, there's like the MRAs, the men's rights activists, who are really just trying, as far as I know, and I might be not categorizing this correctly, but there's a group of people that are just like, hey, the system's really kind of gotten flipped on its head, and men are really getting the short end of the sticks on like divorce cases and getting your custody of kids, and everything they're talking about is true, and is a problem. Just like the original feminists were just like, hey, we think that women should have equal rights as men, and that's also good and true and nothing wrong with that. But then you get these people that just start taking it further to these stupid ends, and these MGTOWs are the same exact thing as like more radical feminists that they just turn into just ridiculousness.
I'm now wondering, do we know if they have like, do they have, I mean, I dare say a platform? Like, is there a
guy who's like leading that?
What are they demanding?
I think they want to go their own way.
Yeah, so I don't think you would really have a leader in that group.
Yeah.
We're all going our own way.
I'm on
are they the
www.mgtow.com right now.
Are MGTOWs, are they the incels?
No. Well, there's probably crossover. They're probably the same thing, but they're different ideas.
Gotcha.
Oh boy, guys. I'm on the website. It's it's pretty bad. So they on the front page they've got a number, just a bunch of jibber jabber, and then they've got the what? Men going. They've got the MGHOW of the day or week, which I guess
MGHOW.
Men going his own way.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
that just sucks.
That is, see, it's horseshoe theory because now they're using proper pronouns. That's great. So that's amazing.
I have to follow this through. So this says, the little, it's a thumbnail picture, and then it says MG How of the day or week. One man is featured here from time to time to acknowledge his contributions and mantastic dedication to the community at large.
Car camp it.
So I'm physically battling through illness for you. Here.
What if you're peeking through all that stuff and you find like all this stuff by Bird Archist?
Oh man, it's a fucking dead link. No way.
So I guess
or it just loops back to their main website. Oh, this is just junk.
What I do recommend is getting into a conversation with one of these guys on Twitter, because they will just reached this. I was told by one to literally do not interact with any female coworkers except for what is absolutely professionally necessary.
Why?
Because they will have you will say something wrong to them that they will get you in trouble.
Hmm.
And it's like, you can't have, I'm like, well, you know, I have coworkers that are females and I'm like friends with, like, no, you can't do that. There's that just will not work. I'm like, okay. Project much?
Well, what are they saying to these coworkers?
I have to imagine that they're probably just, you know, like the libertarians that can't not ever turn it off.
No, I don't know any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Theoretically, if there was like libertarians that just like couldn't be like, hey, I'm in a normal social, situation where I don't have to talk about how terrible the state is. I would imagine that it's very similar to that, except they're talking to like can't shut off that men don't have equal rights as women in some certain situations. That's how I imagine those people are that
right.
don't get along with any women. It's probably because they're just being miserable in front of them.
I don't know what just happened, but I'm now on a Wikipedia page for Wilbur Wright, so I'm just gonna stop.
So Wilbur Wright,
silly website.
Wilbur Wright is a MGTOW, or is he somehow connected to Real ID?
No, MGTOW. Unfortunately, he was not MGTOW, but they quoted him, and so I wanted to go check the quote, and fair enough. I guess it was accurate, but I don't know. This is just ridiculous. I'm afraid I don't have much more for you guys. It's silly.
No, you just have to question Bird on.
Yeah, why? What's with all the documentation on MGTOW.com?
By the way, Carr, I was going to take this podcast in a different direction.
You know what? I would have to lean into it though. Just see where it goes.
Yeah. I don't know. Could you do an hour conversation? That's my challenge. That's the Friends Against Government challenge I'm giving you. Is you have to have a MGTOW on.
Yeah, an hour and a half.
Yeah, so if there's any MGTOWs out there listening, why don't you jump on the Friends Against Government podcast with Carr?
He's inviting you right now.
Yeah, well, welcome aboard.
And since Bird is a big supporter, I mean, it's going to be easy to get on the show.
Christ. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot of that on Twitter or anything like that recently, so maybe that shit's fizzled out. Although I guess none of the stoking elements have really fizzled out all that much, and in fact, feminism has gotten more crazy. None of the courts have changed, so I assume it's here.
Yeah, I think it's almost tidal with this kind of stuff. Like people are, I guess, I don't know. There's all these. 2018 has presented us with a lot of interesting news cycles. And I guess there's been enough that they can't just like go back to the normal like hey, men are getting paid more than women kind of thing.
What would we need to go back to get back to, like, I feel like the timeline just went off the rails somewhere. What year would we have to, like 15? Where do we have to go back to where it's like kind of reasonable?
I don't know, because at the time it's always like, this is so crazy. Like I remember the Obama years when I was more of a, Republican, or even as I was becoming more libertarian, it was still.
You were like a Liberty Hangout guy, right?
No, I was never that. You watch your mouth. I will kick you right off this podcast. But like, I remember thinking like, oh no, Obama's a socialist and this is so bad. But it's like, it's way crazier now. And then we're going to look back, it's going to be 2019 and we're going to look back and be like, man, remember how normal 2018 was?
I guess this is probably more a common theme now, but every single election that I've been alive for has been the most important of our lifetimes.
Yes.
And like you had to vote for the right guy now because the world's going to end if you don't.
No, I for sure agree with that. But I do remember during the Obama years, it was kind of like, yeah, we're continuing all these wars that we started. And there's this frustrating healthcare bill like thing. And yeah, that's bullshit. But like, it just didn't feel like it was, there were like these outrageous headlines left and right. And I know that there's a lot that goes into it. And a lot of it's just fabrication. I get it, but it
Trump
does
really,
to me feel like that.
Yeah, I think
Trump
you're
got
right.
elected.
I think Trump totally changes everything on all
and maybe
sides.
it's just like a refreshing glance, or refreshing may not be the right word, but a different angle of attack at just day-to-day life. But it is not like it was during the Bush years or Obama years. And Obama and Bush years were, in my mind, nearly identical, except for the Obama years had that just brutal just I don't know, better than holier than now accent to him, and then the Bush years were just the neocons, and that was really bad. But they're virtually identical people,
right?
Yeah. Well, this election's the most important of our lifetimes. Did anyone see what that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said about
that she can't move to Washington?
No. She said something, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact quote, but she said something like, the work, we need to keep moving, the government in the right direction. So we need to be focused on 2020 right now, those elections. And it's like, is her whole thing in Congress just going to be campaigning? And is that what it's like? Because that's all it's been.
All right.
When Trump got elected, it was, you got a 2018 midterms, and now it's going to just be, because everyone wants their side to get more. And I mean, that's all she was good for anyway. This Ocasio-Cortez is just these kind of like sound bites. Does anyone actually expect her to do anything legislatively?
Well, no, because none of them do.
Right. But she's just going to be a talking head for them and say her stuff and try to rally the base to get their precious votes in the election coming up. And she's already saying that, like, they literally, has she even served any time? I wish they'd all serve time, but has she even, like, taken office yet? That doesn't happen.
No, I mean, I don't think until
January, right? Yeah. And she's already talking about we need to campaign for the elections in 2 years.
Is she? I don't even know what her voice sounds like. I don't think I've ever heard her speak. Is she a complete dumbass, or is she an intelligent person who's using socialism as a ruse?
I don't know enough about her. I know what I want to say, but I'm trying to be fair.
Right.
And that is that she is the most intelligent person in the world.
That's always
and
the impression that I got from what I read, but you never really know. Like, I mean, you take somebody like Bernie Sanders, and it's like, I think that guy's pretty intelligent, and he's just using it as a ruse.
Yeah, I think she. I don't know.
I could be wrong. I don't bet on it or.
No, care, I mean, like I said, I know what I want to say.
Yeah.
But I don't have enough information to be actually fair.
I mean, she looks like a dumbass and she tweets like a dumbass.
And she is a socialist.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
yeah, but so was Stalin, right?
Right.
So, I don't know. But right. So I guess what I was saying was, is she in on it, or is everyone in on her? I guess is what I was getting at. And
yeah, I think she's just, she's going to be
just a pawn.
Yeah, and I get it that why there's being a big deal being made about her, but the reality of it is that she's not going to have any sort of impact on anything. She's going to be less important, way less important than even like Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Like she'll get when there's an election or something, she'll be popular because of who she is or what she is. But otherwise, she's not going to matter at all.
Yeah, but you might say, I mean, she's younger than us, right? Well, she's 29.
She's got to be, yeah.
Wow.
So, where was Bernie at 29 and where did he finally get to? So, who knows, man?
Yeah.
I mean, just being in the limelight for that long, if you say she's going to stay there for, I mean, what if she's in the limelight for 30 years? That'd be like somebody, and then she's 60, which is really young for somebody running, at that level. I mean, that would be like somebody today being involved in 78?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Or 88 or whatever.
There's a lot of people do that, or a good fair amount.
Well, I'd be a lot more worried about 30 years from now if Bitcoin didn't exist.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
So like I'll play that long game. Now that like Bitcoin is a player in the game.
That's true. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, it's tough to say, man. It's like that whole thing is just like, that's an event horizon that there's just no way to. I mean, I know which way I want it to go, and I think I know which way it's gonna go, but man, there's just so many variables and so much at stake that there's
a lot
so
of
many people that are
who don't want it to happen.
Right.
What's that?
There's a lot of people who don't want it to happen.
Exactly, and a lot of people with a lot of power and money.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But every day they don't break it or destroy it means that it becomes more difficult.
For sure.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Thank God.
I know. Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah.
Lead us, Craig Wright.
Craig Wright. Golly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We've traversed the whole gamut here.
Yeah, we went from Real ID to school to MGTOWs to Ocasio-Cortez, then to Bitcoin, and then all the way from Bitcoin to Craig Wright.
Oh, man. I know what I wanted to bring up. Mance just gave out his name.
Oh, yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's Heinrich Schmeckeldorf.
But no, that's good for him. That's a big step. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he was just on Tom Woods, right? I haven't spooled that up on the podcast yet.
I just listened to it before we started.
Nice.
And it was a really good episode.
Cool.
So, highly encourage everybody to listen to that.
Commute in the morning.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a free market success story. So we last week during the podcast we talked about we had a big surprise, and for LibertyMugs.com, and we released it this week. But I'm not sure that everyone knows what we did there. But what we did do is now at LibertyMugs.com, we're no longer just selling mugs. We're now also selling tractors. And we're also selling T-shirts. So, actually, we didn't just break hearts with selling T-shirts now, because we did have one T-shirt that we sold before because Car Camp had asked for it, so we put it there. But now, like basically all the mugs that made sense to be made into T-shirts, we made them into T-shirts. So go over there and check it out. And if you subscribe to the email newsletter at mcfluel.com, we will send you a coupon code to go use over at libertymugs.com.
Do you guys have Free the Barkets?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have a Free the Barkets t-shirt.
Sweet.
That one actually got sold a little bit, including the beer mug, the Free the Beerkits.
Yeah, I love that there was both. So good.
Yeah.
I need to get the Free the Beerkits one.
You can't.
Oh, is it out of print?
Yeah, the people were using to sell the beer mugs, print the beer mugs, they kind of went out of business. So
really?
Yeah, we do have. I mean, we will. There is another way to do it, but we charge a lot of money. So you can ask for anything in a beer mug, but we're gonna raise the price on you.
Right.
Because it's a pain. It's a pain in the butt to do it.
Available?
Oh, coffee mug is absolutely available. Yes.
Sweet.
And you could put beer in your coffee mug if you want.
Well, I could and I would and I may have already.
So make sure you get the 15-ounce one for that. It's not quite a pint, but
yeah, it's pretty close.
After you take a couple sips, it is.
Yep.
Just refill it.
Yep. There you go. So check out mcflugel.com/119. After what we talked about on this show, I don't know what the show notes page is going to look like. I'm probably just not going to even try. But you will find links to subscribe to the email or the podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, all the other podcatchers. Also, subscribe to that email newsletter and get the Liberty Mugs discount. Also, we'll link you up to libertymugs.com there. And you'll also be able to find links to our friends' podcasts, including Mance Raider and Free Man Beyond the Wall, Peaceful Treason Podcast, Dino Files, and Friends Against Government Podcast. So with that, thanks, Carr, for joining us, as always.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully the download numbers won't suffer like they have whenever you're on in the past.
Yeah, hopefully not.
We'll catch you next week.
Peace.
Later.